Hello, Tiffany Arielle here, and we are back with another video. It has been a while, but we're back. So today we're going to be doing a trip recap from a trip that I went on a few months ago, actually. I was traveling with my mom and my sister for my mom's birthday, and we visited a few different cities. So this trip is going to kind of cover everything. So I think it was a total of like 5 different cities over like 3 different countries. So yeah, there's a lot to go over. I was really bad at vlogging, so I will be kind of doing a sit down recap of the trip, and there will be some clips, of course, interspersed, just so that you can visually see all of the things that we were doing. So to start out with, I flew from the Bay Area to Los Angeles to see the Usher concert because Usher was on tour and I had to see him, and I was going to be on the trip while he was in the Bay Area. So I went down to Los Angeles for one night. I saw this concert at the Intuit Dome, and it was actually really convenient. I won't say too much about that. What I will say is, if you are going to LA and you're going to SoFi Stadium or the Intuit Dome, I highly recommend just staying at one of the hotels by the airport, because a lot of them have airport shuttles from the airport, so transportation is easy. And then there was also a bus that picked up near those hotels and stopped like literally right outside of the Intuit Dome, so I didn't have to worry about, you know, high Uber prices or parking or anything of that nature. So that was really convenient. So on day 2, I met up with my mom in New York City, and we decided to do that because I live in California, she lives in Houston, and it was just easier for us to travel together if we met up in a third city. Additionally, it was a lot easier to fly from New York to Switzerland, which is where we were going. There's a lot more flights available, and also I was booking the trip on points, so there was even less options available once you start looking at points from California or from Houston. There were actually no direct flights from Houston to Switzerland, so basically New York was just a lot more convenient. Yeah, so that night we just met up at the airport. We took a Lyft to our hotel. We stayed at the DoubleTree by Hilton, New York, Times Square, mainly because it was fairly centrally located. It was pretty easy to get there from Newark Airport, and also relatively easy for us to get to JFK the next day. And we were able to easily access like subway and like walking around and get food and, you know, stuff like that. So that was like the primary reason why I chose that location. Day 3 of the trip, we started our day just kind of sleeping in the hotel because we didn't really feel like waking up early. We did decide to spend a few hours walking around Manhattan. We walked past the Lincoln Center because neither of us had been there and it just seemed cool. Then we went to Central Park and just kind of walked around there for a while, looking at everything that was around, because we hadn't been there either. And then we just got some bagels and lox from Brett's and Daughters. So that was pretty much how we spent our afternoon before it was time to make our way to the airport. So from the hotel to JFK, we just took the subway because it's, you know, the cheapest option. Didn't really seem to make sense to book an Uber or anything like that. We were flying business class on Swiss Air from JFK to Geneva. So we did get to go to priority check-in, and we also had lounge access in JFK before we got on the plane. That was really nice. I didn't get any footage on the plane itself. I'll see if I can find another post to like link down below of somebody else who vlogged about a business class on Swiss Air. I will say it wasn't like the nicest of the business class products. Like, you don't have like a suite or anything like that, but it was nice to have a lie flat seat. It is nice to have upgraded food, you know, with proper utensils and things of that nature. And I think it was definitely worth the amount of points that I spent. Also, if you're interested to know how I booked these tickets with points, definitely comment that down below and I can make a separate video about specifically how I did that, because it was a little bit involved and I don't want to get into that in this video. So day 4, we arrived in Geneva. Passport control and everything like that was pretty smooth. We didn't need visas or anything like that with our US passports, so very hassle-free. It was around 9 a.m. when we arrived. We decided to just take an Uber to the hotel because just didn't really feel like dealing with public transportation with the luggage and everything. Obviously, because it was 9 a.m., we could not check into our hotel, but we were able to drop off our bags and then go just kind of walk around, see a few sights while we waited for our room to be ready. So we walked along the Rhone River, I think is what it's called. And we saw the flower clock, which is like one of the main sites in Geneva. They literally have a bunch of flowers they've planted and they've made it in like a shape of a clock, and then they put the hands and everything like that. I forgot how many flowers it is, but it's like a ridiculous number of flowers that they have planted to make this clock. And then we also went to, there's like the English garden, which is like right next to there. Just kind of hung out there for a bit, and then we walked to this place called Globus Food Hall and got some savory crepes for lunch, and by that time our room was ready, so we made our way back to the hotel. One thing to keep in mind is that in Geneva they do speak French. Most of them did also speak English, but I do think it's helpful if you know at least a little bit of French just to kind of talk to the locals. So just keep that in mind if you choose to travel to Geneva. So after we got checked into our hotel, we didn't really do much for the rest of the day. We were pretty tired after traveling. So we just looked up a local grocery store, walked there, picked up some bottled water and some prepared food for dinner, and just relaxed in our room for the rest of the night, got some sleep to be refreshed for the next day. Oh, I forgot to mention the hotel we stayed at was called Hotel Tiffany. I may have picked that hotel for biased reasons, but also I picked the hotel because the location was pretty good. It was walking distance from where we needed to be picked up for our activities on the following days, and it was also pretty close to a lot of tram stops, and there were multiple food places nearby. So that was a big part of why I picked it. Also, I needed a room that was big enough for 3 adults, and finding rooms big enough for 3 adults in Europe is not that easy. Like in the US, it's pretty easy to find like rooms with 2 queen beds. That's not as much of a thing over there. So basically, if you're dealing with 3 or 4 adults, or even 2 adults and a child, you kind of are going to have limited options if you want to stay in one room. Otherwise, you may need to book like a full suite, which is going to be more expensive, or even separate rooms altogether. So that was a big part of why I chose all of the lodging that I chose throughout this trip. So day 5, we decided to start it off with a good tour. So we decided to do a combined tour of Geneva and a nearby city of Annecy, which is actually in France. So the morning part is when we went to Annecy. We did have to bring our passports with us, even though they didn't check. Apparently there's usually not passport control between Switzerland and France, but sometimes they may check. And I've heard some things about French, police and border control that you probably don't want to anger them. So definitely bring your passport with you if you are traveling between countries, even if you think you don't need it, just to be on the safe side. In Annecy, we started our tour with a guided tour. There was a guide. So he walked us around, saw some of the main sites. I'm just looking at my notes so I don't forget anything. One of the main places, it was the Palais de Lille, which is like Palace of the Island. And then we also went to Musée Château d'Annecy, which is like a chateau is like castle and then like museum, but basically it was a castle and now it's a museum. And those were like the main 2 things that the guide showed us. And outside of that, we just kind of walked around, looked at the architecture. My mom is like really into architecture. That's kind of why she chose these specific locations and tours. And then we grabbed like some hot cocoa, some tea, some croissants at a local cafe before it was time to get on the bus and head back to Geneva. So the afternoon portion of the tour was like a tour of Geneva. So first we went on a bus around. We went over by the United Nations and we were able to see the walkway with like all the flags, which was kind of cool. And then there's also this like huge like broken chair. They call it a sculpture, but like it literally, I guess it's maybe a wood sculpture. I don't know what the definition of sculpture is, but it's just this huge like wooden like chair with like one leg broken. It's like pretty significant in Geneva, like one of the main things that people go to see. We also saw a lot of the other different nonprofit or like government or other organizations around. Like there's the World Health Org and like things like that that are all around in Geneva. It's like a ridiculous number. Like it's pretty like wild to see all those organizations just like all there in one place next to each other. So after the bus tour, we went on this petit train, which is like the little train. Basically took us around the old town Geneva, and we saw some of the like just the buildings within town. And then after that, we went on a lake tour on like Lake Geneva and just kind of sailed around. It was pretty windy, so it wasn't as enjoyable. Also, it was raining the whole day, so there was also that. But it's just always nice to be on a boat. Like, one thing about me, I love being on a boat. So that was pretty much how we spent our day. We decided to just grab some dinner at this Italian restaurant. We got a pizza and some eggplant parm, and that was how we ended the day. Day 6, we went on another tour. So this time back to France, we went to a place called Chamonix, which is like a ski town, and it's near Mont Blanc, which is like one of the, like, I guess, famous mountains in the Swiss Alps. It's like a specific portion of the Alps. So we started off with a little walking tour of Chamonix, and then we took the cable car up the mountain. We were not able to go up all the way because due to the weather, it was like really windy and rainy and stuff like that. So it wasn't really safe to take the cable car all the way up. So we kind of just went up partway, walked around, took some pictures, enjoyed the views that we could, then took the cable car back down before it was time for lunch. We had brought lunch from like some sandwiches that we picked up from the grocery store. And after lunch, we took another petit train, but this one was bigger than the other one. The other one was like really small. This was like a medium-sized train. And we actually went up into the mountains to a glacier. And first we could see the glacier, but also you could literally go inside the glacier. They had an ice cave, which was really, really cool. They had a lot of facts and information about glaciers. And yeah, like, it's just kind of cool to be walking into an ice cave. The only downside was it was really, really cold, and also there were puddles of water, so you have to be careful to like not step in the puddles. But the real thing was there were a lot of stairs, so you need to be in like pretty good physical shape in order to go into the ice cave. Like, going down is easy, but coming back up, like, it's a lot of stairs that you have to like walk. So if you have like knee problems or anything like that, maybe not for you. The other thing I want to mention is because you are kind of up in the mountains at pretty high altitude. It was September when we went, so like it was technically fall, but it was like barely fall, right? And I was pretty cold. Like, I had on a sweater, a fleece jacket, another wind layer on top of that, and I still got kind of chilly at times just because of, you know, the altitude and everything. So make sure that you dress warmly. Please do not think, oh, I'm going to Switzerland, it's September, it'll be warm. No, if you are up in the mountains, you will not be warm. Please dress accordingly. So yeah, anyway, after the tour was over, we didn't really feel like doing anything else, so we just ordered some ramen. They have this thing called Just Eat, which is basically Grubhub. Like, the logo is exactly the same. I don't really know why they called it a different thing, but you know. So we just ordered ramen on there, had that for dinner, and just chilled in our room the rest of the night. Day 7 was our last day in Geneva. So this was the day that my sister arrived. So we ended up meeting up with some like friends of my mom for lunch at this restaurant called Le Relais de l'Entrecôte. And the entrecôte is like steak and fries. It's like steak with like gravy and fries. Apparently it's kind of like a tourist trap, but also I feel like it's one of those things where like when you're in a place, you just do it. So yeah, they literally only serve that. So you can choose whether you want it like rare, medium, or well done. And you can get seconds as well. So they have steak, they have fries, and then everybody gets salad. They did have like dessert menu, drink menu. So that was like the only menu. So yeah, it was kind of cool to do that, experience that. And then we decided to do some sightseeing. So because we knew that we wanted to go to multiple places, we decided to purchase the Geneva City Pass. There's a 24-hour one, which is what we got. It included public transportation. It was like 35 Swiss francs. I don't know how much that is in dollars, but not too much. And we kind of did the math, and it was going to be more cost effective than paying the entry fees individually. So first we went to the St. Pierre Cathedral. So mainly we wanted to go up into the towers to see the views. So we did that, which was, again, a lot of stairs. You're probably sensing a theme here. There were a lot of stairs involved. But yeah, the view was amazing. It was really pretty. You can pretty much see everything from up there, which was really, really cool. We didn't spend a lot of other time in the cathedral outside of just going up the towers and like looking at the view. So then we left from there and we went to Musée d'Ariana, which is like a glass and ceramics museum. My mom was really looking for blown glass by a specific artist. They didn't have that, but they did have other blown glass. And I was really like looking at some of the ceramics, like some of the china and stuff like that was like really cool, really pretty to look at. And after we left there, the last stop was the Patek Philippe Museum. So the collection that I enjoyed the most was the antique collection. They showed a lot of different watches from like centuries ago. And it was really wild because a lot of these watches like do not look like watches at all. It would be like a bird cage and then there's like a clock in the back. Or there would be like a butterfly. Just all different types of really creative things that were made to kind of look like just an accessory that you hold or an accessory that you wear, but is actually a watch. And I thought that was really cool, especially the women's watches, like definitely cool. Then there was the Patek Philippe collection, which I didn't really care about that too much. Like if you're really like into Patek Philippe or if you're really into watches, then you might enjoy this. But to me, they all kind of started to look the same because all of those kind of looked like they were the same kind of style of watch that we have now. And so I don't really know the nuances of like watch artistry, so I didn't really appreciate that as much. So finally we ended the day with some fondue because everybody says you're supposed to have fondue when you're in Switzerland. So we went to this place called Café Restaurant de la Radio and we got the fondue and then we had just, regular dinner, sangria, nothing crazy. And that was the end of our time exploring Geneva. So day 8, we migrated from Geneva to Zurich. We decided to take the train. I mean, you could fly, but taking trains in Europe is kind of a thing. So that's what we did. You also just don't have to worry about security and any of that kind of stuff when you take the train. And you get to kind of look at the countryside, like as you're traveling. So that's what we opted to do. So we took a little tram to the train station. It was pretty like low hassle. You just like, buy your train ticket online. You can put it on like this little app or whatever that you're supposed to download, and then they just check it. It's pretty easy. I will say, if you have a lot of luggage, the train might not be the best way because you kind of have to get all your luggage onto the train and off yourself. There are racks up above, but then again, that means you have to lift up your big heavy suitcase up onto the racks. So just be mindful of that if you're planning to take the trains. They do have an option where I believe you can have your luggage like shipped to your destination like the day before or something like that. So if you really have a lot of stuff and you want to take the train, you could do that. We didn't do that because we figured we would be able to manage it, which we could, but just, it is a little bit of a headache over like flying where you just check the bag and then you don't have to worry about it until you get to the other end. Yeah. So once we arrived in Zurich, we stayed in an Airbnb. I'll have that linked in my blog post, which will be linked down below. Because I wanted a bit more space. Like I said earlier, it was kind of hard to find hotels with enough room and wanted to be in a good area that was convenient. And also I figured it would be nice to be able to do laundry by this point because keep in mind we're now on day 8 or like I'm on day 8 of traveling. So like, after a week you probably have some dirty clothes, and that did actually come in handy. We were able to do a bit of laundry in the Airbnb, and just it was nice to have more space to just kind of relax and like spread out and not be like on top of each other the entire trip. Yeah, we didn't really do anything after we arrived in Zurich. The only thing we did that day was we went to dinner at this place called Zukauskeller. Not really sure if I pronounced that correctly. I don't speak German. They speak German in Zurich. They also speak English, so you don't like need to speak German at all, but a lot of the things are written in German. So this restaurant was kind of interesting. So if you are a smaller party, one thing to keep in mind is they do sit multiple parties at the same table. So at our table, it was our party of 3, another party of 3, and then like a solo guy all like together at the table. So yeah, if you're not comfortable like being at a table with strangers, like maybe don't go here, or only go if you have like 6 to 8 people and you're gonna fill up a whole table by yourself. Okay, day 9, we're back to the activity. So this day we decided to go up it's like Uetliberg or something like that, which is like a famous, I think it's a mountain or peak. I don't actually know what the thing is. But basically, everybody says you're supposed to do this. So you take the train up to the stop, Uetliberg, and then you have to take a short hike from the train station to the viewing point. And then once you get to the viewing point, you have the option to also climb a tower if you want to get even higher and like really see everything. I did not go up the tower because honestly my knee was kind of bothering me after all the stairs that we encountered in the previous days and then the short hike. I kind of just was over climbing and didn't want to do that anymore. My mom and my sister did go up the tower, but I just kind of stayed at the viewing area. It was still really nice, really beautiful views. Like definitely enjoyed looking out over the city of Zurich. You could see mountains in the distance, you could see water, you could see the town. Yeah, like that was definitely a good experience. I would say this is definitely a must do if you're in Zurich. So after that, we had time. We decided to do a lake cruise. Also, I forgot to mention before, while we were in Zurich, we decided to buy the Zurich card. This time we bought the 72-hour Zurich card, which is like 3 days. And so pretty much everything that we did, with the exception of one thing, which I will highlight later, was included in the Zurich card. It also includes all of the public transportation. So you don't have to worry about like buying individual tickets and things like that. So like the train that we took up there was included. Taking the lake cruise that we went on was included. But yeah, lake cruise was cool. We got on the lake cruise, we went around. Then we realized that you can actually get on and off the lake cruise. It's not like one cruise where you're just stuck on there the whole time. So we got off, we went to this home of chocolate, which is like the Lindt home of chocolate. We couldn't go in right away, so we got our tickets for later. Then we actually took the bus to this other place called Felsenegg to ride a cable car to see even more views. So clearly day 9 was just about the views. So anyway, we rode the cable car up. We didn't even get out of the cable car. We literally just rode the cable car up, looked, around, and then rode the cable car back down because we were kind of on a time schedule. We kind of compared it to like Amazing Race, how we're like museum, bus, hike, cable car, bus. Like it was pretty intense for a minute. But yeah, so we made it back to the home of chocolate. I keep trying to say home of chicken and waffles because there's a restaurant called that's near where I live, but that's neither here nor there. We made it back to the home of chocolate. We did our tour. It's a pretty short tour. It doesn't actually take very long. You could probably do it in 30 minutes, like maybe an hour. This was the thing that was not included with the Zurich card, but they did give a discount. I believe it was a 15% discount. So just keep that in mind. They do give out quite a few chocolate samples during the tour, like the little ball, like Lindt balls. We got those at the end, and then there were just other opportunities to taste chocolate throughout. And it just kind of goes into a lot of information about how chocolate is made and like, stuff like that. So that was cool. Then we left from there. We had to rush back to get on our boat, and we continued our loop around the lake. And that was it for the day. We decided to just stop at the grocery store, pick up some food for dinner and for breakfast the next couple of days. And yeah, that was how we ended the night. Day 10, it was raining, so we didn't really want to spend much time outside. We started out going to my company. My company has an office in Zurich, and we had lunch there because A, free food, like why not? B, it's just kind of cool to visit other offices and see this particular office has a lot of like things in it. I cannot show you that because it's not open to the public, so I'll just, yeah. So after that, we went to the Swiss National Museum and we stayed there until closing, which was around 5 p.m. This museum, we definitely could have spent like the full day there if we had wanted to. We didn't get through most of the museum. I think a big part of that though is that we watched this documentary. There was a documentary that they were showing about forced foster care and people who were taken away from their families, which was really wild. Like in some cases it was like, okay, yeah, the parents can't take care of you, but like some of these people had like grandparents or like aunts and uncles that were perfectly happy to take care of them, but they were like taken away from their grandparents and put in these like abusive foster homes, which was just really sad to hear about. Anyway, so they were showing the documentary of all these people who were sharing their experiences, and then they kind of talked about some of the things that have been done since then to improve the rights and improve the treatment of, you know, foster children or children who don't have parents for whatever reason. One thing I really appreciated about this museum in general was it wasn't kind of giving the like we are perfect and we've done nothing wrong vibe. Like, I feel like they actually did talk about like, this is our history, these are the things that we did wrong, and like this is what we're doing now to try to like be better, which I think is much better than a lot of other places where they're just like, we are great and we were completely justified in every bad thing we ever did. But anyway, I won't talk too much about that. But yeah, I would definitely recommend the Swiss National Museum. I decided to practice my French. I was trying to like read all the signs in French as much as I could. They are written in both English and German as well as French. So you, again, do not have to speak French or German. It's perfectly fine if you only speak English. So we left from there and we're like, okay, well, what are we going to do with the rest of our day? We had our Zurich card, so we decided to go on yet another boat. So this time we went on the Limmat River Cruise. So this one picks up like right outside the museum, and then it goes on this like really short boat that's like half underwater. It's a really weird boat. And it goes through Old Town Zurich, and you can see some of the main like buildings and stuff like that. It also does go through part of the lake, so that part was a bit repetitive compared to what we did the previous day, but again, still like a nice little relaxing way to spend an afternoon, especially if it's raining and you don't want to be like exposed to the elements. So after that, we went to this restaurant. It's called Et Sa Cuisine, which is And Your Cousin. And we got galettes, which is kind of like a crepe, but like different. And then we had crepes, like sweet crepes. And that was our dinner. And that was the end of our time in Zurich. So now we're on day 11. We're leaving Zurich. We left from our Airbnb, went to the airport first thing in the morning, and flew to London City Airport, took the train from there to our hotel. Our hotel was very close to Paddington Station. Taking public transit in London was relatively straightforward. Google Maps worked without really any issue. And also, just like New York, if you're not familiar, you can just like tap your phone or tap your card. You don't have to like download any passes or anything like that. So that was really, really convenient. But yeah, so we dropped off our stuff at our hotel, which we are actually able to check in early, which was really nice. And then we went back to the train station, grabbed some lunch. We just got like fast food in the train station. And then we did like a whirlwind tour of all the main sites. So this, I will probably do like a little montage, but I'll just tell you like where we went, and then you can just like watch the like little whirlwind tour. So we went to the Tower of London, the Tower Bridge, St. Paul's Cathedral, London Eye, Big Ben, and Westminster Abbey. So I'll just let you kind of watch the clips and the footage that I have from all of that, and then we'll be back. Alright, so after that whirlwind tour, we decided to grab dinner at Nando's. I always hear the people in the UK talking about Nando's, and I've never been to Nando's. Although, apparently there is Nando's in the US in some places. I don't know where exactly, so maybe there's one near you. But yes, we went to Nando's. It's like Peruvian chicken, which is kind of interesting. Like, I don't know why it's like a big thing in the UK when it's like, I believe it's Peruvian. It's kind of strange. But anyway, it was pretty good. I enjoyed the chicken. I enjoyed the food. And yeah, that was the end of day 11. So day 12, we started off the day with the one thing that I really, really wanted to do in London, which was afternoon tea. We decided to go to Harrods. There's probably like plenty of other places you could do afternoon tea. This was very expensive, but I just kind of heard of Harrods as like one of the more like famous places to have afternoon tea. It was a vibe. It was an experience. I enjoyed it. So basically each person like orders their tea, and it's like a set menu. You can choose whether you want the regular menu or the vegetarian menu. And so they started us off with, it was like a little soup. I forgot what it was called, but it was like some type of soup. And then there were just like all these different type of sandwiches. There were savory ones. And then there were the sweet cakes. And then after all of the sweet cakes, we had scones with like cream and jam. It was a lot. It was very, very filling. Like I was like stuffed afterwards. But yeah, it was a good experience. I enjoyed it. So after tea, we didn't really have any concrete plans, but we knew we wanted to see the palaces. So we decided to do like a shortened version of the Royal Walk. And so we went to Buckingham Palace, we went to Kensington Palace, we kind of walked through some of the gardens like Kensington Gardens, saw some of the other like main sites. It was like a fountain or like a pond with some swans. It was really pretty. There was another area where there were a bunch of birds, and there was this guy there with peanuts. I don't know if he worked there or not, it was unclear, but basically you could like feed the birds or like feed the squirrels, which was kind of cool. But yeah, so that's pretty much how we spent the bulk of the afternoon. And then by that time we were hungry. We knew we had to get some fish and chips while we were in London, because that's kind of like a thing. So we happened across this random hotel. We asked the people at the hotel, where should we have fish and chips? They pointed us to a tavern that was like literally across the street. It was called Goat Tavern. So we went there, we had fish and chips, and it came with like green peas. I guess that's a thing. They eat green peas. I don't know. And yeah, that's what we had. And then we made our way back to our hotel, and that was pretty much the end of the trip. Yeah, the next day, which was day 13, my mom and my sister both left pretty early. My flight wasn't until 4 p.m. So I woke up and just kind of went to McDonald's because I just didn't really feel like thinking about what I wanted to eat, and just spent some time reading in the park before it was time to make my way to the airport. Made my way home. I will say, trying to get into a lounge in London Heathrow, I have priority pass, was not easy. So if you have priority pass and you're looking for lounges in Heathrow, apparently they tend to get packed, and there is an option to pre-book, like make a reservation. So I did make a reservation. I was able to get in after waiting for about like maybe 20 to 30 minutes. So, you know, it was helpful, and I didn't have to pay the reservation fee, but I think the reservation fee was like $6 or something. So yeah, I would say if you're flying out of Heathrow and you're trying to use priority pass, look into the lounges ahead of time and maybe consider making a reservation if you want to like guarantee that you can get into the lounge. I think that was the only thing that was really of note. So I flew on Virgin Atlantic on the way back. I flew premium economy. Great experience. I loved Virgin Premium Economy. I would absolutely fly that again, especially for a daytime flight when you don't really need the lie flat seats. Highly recommend Virgin Premium Economy. Great experience. Extra leg room, wider seat. I would say I would probably compare it to like a domestic first class type of experience, but for like just longer flight is what I would say. So if you're not going to sleep, yeah, I think it's great. And it's cheaper than business class. So anyway, that's the end of the trip. So I do have a blog post with all of this in written form, all of the links to all of the tours, all of the hotels, all of the everything is all linked. And again, if you want me to make a video on specifically how I booked the flights, because I did both mine and my mom's flights, like pretty much all on points, including business class for both of us on the way there, and business class for her on the way back, and premium economy for me on the way back. But yeah, so if you want to hear the details of that, definitely comment that down below. I will make a separate video about that topic. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye.